the young and the restless spoilers chock full. Kyle Abbott sat in his office at Glissade, staring out the window but seeing nothing of the city below. His thoughts were consumed with the events that had unfolded over the past months, events that had torn his family apart and pushed him into alliances he never wanted. It was Victor Newman's doing, of course, orchestrating every move with the precision of a master manipulator. Kyle now understood the depths of Victor's machinations, but the realization came too late. His parents, Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins, had already paid the price for his complicity, and now, Kyle was determined to set things right. Kyle had always admired his father, Jack, even when they had their disagreements. Jack was a man of principles, someone who always fought for his family, even when the odds were stacked against him. Diane, his mother, had returned to his life, and despite her flaws, Kyle believed they could rebuild their family. But Victor Newman, a man infamous for tearing down anyone who stood in his way, had different plans. Victor had worked his way into Kyle's life under the guise of mentorship, offering opportunities at Glissade and positioning Kyle as a key player. At the time, it seemed like a dream come true, a chance for Kyle to step out of his father's shadow and build something of his own. But that dream had quickly turned into a nightmare. Victor's ultimate goal had never been to help Kyle but to drive a wedge between him and his parents. Under Victor's influence, Kyle had been manipulated into choices that led to the downfall of his own family. The final blow was the destruction of Jack and Diane's marriage, a direct consequence of Kyle's entanglement with Victor's schemes. And now, sitting alone in his office, Kyle could no longer ignore the truth. He had betrayed his parents, and for what? Power? Prestige? None of it mattered if it came at the cost of his family. Kyle clenched his fists, the weight of his decisions pressing down on him. He knew he had to act, and fast. His mind raced as he considered his options. Leaving Glissade was the obvious first step, but he couldn't just walk away. Victor was a man who would never let go of someone who had been in his grasp. Kyle would need to be strategic, to plan his exit carefully. But even as he considered a covert departure, one that might allow him to keep some distance from the fallout, another thought began to take root in his mind. Could he face Victor directly? Could he stand up to the man who had played him like a pawn in a much larger game? Kyle didn't know if he was ready for such a confrontation, but he knew he couldn't keep living in this lie. His family deserved better, and he deserved better. He had to confront Victor, but it couldn't be a cowardly retreat. It had to be a bold move, one that would leave no doubt where his loyalties truly lay. The decision made, Kyle knew there was only one person he could turn to, his father, Jack. He needed Jack's guidance, not just as a business strategist but as a father who had always been there for him, despite the mistakes Kyle had made. That evening, under the cover of darkness, Kyle left Glissade and drove to his father's house, hoping for the support he desperately needed. Jack Abbott opened the door, his expression neutral but his eyes betraying a deep sadness. He had already lost so much, and Kyle knew that he had been a major part of that loss. "Dad, we need to talk," Kyle said, stepping inside. In the quiet of the living room, Kyle laid out his plan. He wanted to leave Glissade, to sever ties with Victor completely, but he also wanted to be smart about it. His idea was to play along for a little while longer, to act as if he were still loyal to Victor while secretly preparing his exit. "I can pretend I'm still on his side, buy myself some time before I make my move," Kyle explained. "I don't want him to see it coming." But Jack shook his head, his face resolute. "No, Kyle. That's not the way to do this." Jack's voice was calm but firm, the voice of a man who had fought too many battles to believe in half measures. "If you're going to leave, you need to do it the right way. Victor needs to know that you're not afraid of him. You're not a child anymore. You're a man, and it's time you acted like one. You have to stand up to him, face him directly, or this will never end." Kyle was taken aback. He had expected his father to support his idea of subterfuge, of quietly slipping away from Victor's influence. But Jack was pushing him toward a direct confrontation, something Kyle wasn't sure he was ready for. "But if I just walk away, he'll come after me," Kyle protested. "You know what he's like, Dad. He'll destroy everything I've built." Jack leaned forward, his gaze piercing. "Let him try. You're an Abbott, Kyle. We don't run from fights, especially not from men like Victor Newman.